Good morning and welcome to Computers in Libraries 2017, and welcome also those of you attending the Internet at Schools track and those of you attending the Library Leaders Summit. I think it's wonderful that we have people from just about every sort of library on the planet represented here this week: public, university, school, government, corporate, etc., all looking for ways to use technology to help their communities. I'm Tom Hogan, President of Information Today, your host for this conference. I'd like to see a show of hands, please. How many of you are attending your very first Computers in Libraries conference? Wow, nice. So how many of you have attended at least one other in this series? That would be everybody else, right? Okay. All right, I'd say about 50-50. This is the 32nd annual Computers in Libraries Conference and Exhibition. It's amazing how this event has survived good times and not so good times. The focus of this conference for the last 32 years has always been on technology applicable to libraries. But it's also about the people who participate in the conference and challenge us to think creatively. I ran across this quote recently: "Knowledge is like money. To be of value, it must circulate. And in circulating, it can increase in quantity and hopefully in value." We have an excellent turnout this year at Computers in Libraries. We have 1,069 people attending the conference. We also have 141 people who have signed up just to visit the exhibits, and we have 97 exhibitor personnel. That makes a grand total of 1,307 individuals who will be participating in one form or another this week. With the on-site registrations we expect, we should reach about 1,500 attendees, and that's very gratifying to those of us involved in the conference, especially after all these 32 years. To be honest, however, that number of 1,307 is down about 10% versus last year. Understandable, perhaps, with everything that is happening here and around the country. We do a little sort of our registration database each year, and a sort by state first and then country, and I'm pleased to report that we have representation from 44 states, plus the District of Columbia, obviously, and Puerto Rico. We also have 16 countries outside the U.S. represented here this week. We have representatives from Canada, Nigeria, India, Latvia, Sweden, Belize, Australia, Egypt, Finland, Ghana, Netherlands, Pakistan, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Singapore, and South Africa. So please join me in welcoming these people that have come so far. Without getting political, I'll have to say that the number is down this year from international visitors, so I'll let you ponder the reason why that might be so. Okay, the longevity of the conference, again, 32 years, is quite amazing, and to a large degree it's due to people like Jane Dysart, our program chair, and her organizing committee. Very quickly, I'd like to read the organizing committee's names. Helen Blowers from OCLC, Marshall Breeding from Library Technology Guides, Darlene Fichter, University of Saskatchewan, Nate Hill, Metropolitan New York Library Council, Richard Holzer, Natural History Museum of Los Angeles, Dick Kaiser of Computers in Libraries Magazine, Donna Sheeter, Library Strategies International, and Hannah Summers, George Washington University. The organizers of the Internet at Schools track are Carolyn Foote from Westlake High School in Austin, Texas, and Dave Hoffman, editor of Internet at Schools magazine. This year, as I mentioned above, we've added a co-located event, a conference within a conference called Library Leaders Summit, which is facilitated by Rebecca Jones of Dysart and Jones Associates. I'd also like to thank all the speakers and moderators, some 186 strong, yes, we counted them, who have kindly agreed to share their time and experiences with us this week. Speakers and moderators are the backbone of the conference, and we appreciate their choosing Computers in Libraries as a forum for their knowledge sharing. The tools and technology available to libraries have changed over the years, but the quality of the topics and speakers at this conference never changes. There's a speaker directory in the back of your program where the speakers are listed alphabetically, all the way from Stephen Abram to Elizabeth Zobe, and their affiliations and email addresses are there, so you can contact them with follow-up questions and comments, maybe even develop some lifelong friendships. This quote comes to mind. I'll try this again. One's mind, once stretched by a new idea, never regains its original dimensions. I'd also like to thank the 45 companies and organizations that are represented in the exhibit hall. They support our efforts and, frankly, help us keep registration prices as low as possible, so we are very grateful to them. And I'll tell you just one little secret. Exhibitors go back to their offices and have to write a report on the conference, which includes some hard numbers, such as how many conversations they had, how many contacts they made. And if their bosses like the numbers, they come back next year and support the conference. So, and obviously we love that. So please put a little time aside to visit with them. We'd like them back next year. A sincere thanks also to our learning partner, SLA, for their support of the conference, as well as to the the Association of Independent Information Professionals, or AIIP. We also received generous support this year from the Knight Foundation, and many thanks to the Knight Foundation. Last but certainly not least, I'd like to thank all of you for coming. Without you, there obviously is no Computers and Libraries Conference. You have my deepest thanks for your support all these 32 years. I'll leave you with just one more quote. There are two kinds of people, those who do the work and those who take the credit. Try to be in the first group. There is less competition there. So let's get to work and make this 30-second Computers and Libraries the best one yet. I'll now turn the podium over to Jane Dysart, your program chair. Thank you very much.
That was great. Tom always gives us some good quotes to start our day. How many of you started yesterday with workshops or our gadgets evening last night? Did you have fun? Did you play with the toys that Brian Pishman and Todd Colgrove brought to show? They have some good stuff and always makes you think about how we can use things. They had the the lenses to look at some of the augmented reality, which is actually going to be a big topic for us in the fall at Internet Librarian. So keep that in mind. But this week we're focusing on upping our game and taking libraries to new heights with technology. And as Tom said, we're really excited about the breadth and depth of the speakers and topics that we're covering. Just a couple of housekeeping things from me. Wi-Fi is pretty much everywhere, not like the old days when we were in this hotel many years ago. So you should be able to find the network wherever you are at Hyatt, meeting access code CIL 2017. Imagine that. The conference program hopefully has everything to direct you to where you want to be. All of our sessions will be on this floor in this room. And I'm going to ask after our keynote that if you have a question for our keynote speaker, we're going to put her outside at a reserved table because we all need to exit this room to bring in some air walls and get ready for the sessions to start after the coffee break in the hallway. So just so you know, I'm going to shoo you out of here so that we can make that arrangement. What else do I want to tell you? Many of the speakers have presented handouts or slides that are available on the website. At the front of your program, you can see how to get at those. As Tom said, the speaker directory is here. The exhibit hall opens this evening with a reception, and tomorrow and Thursday we also have additional content which we call cyber tours, so you can see the list of the topics in the program, and also in the exhibit hall they will be listed. Okay, I think that's all I need in terms of oh no, I almost forgot, Don. I'm terribly sorry. Our wonderful blogger, Don Hawkins, does amazing work. So if you can't get to if you can't clone yourself and get to all the different sessions that you want to, make sure you check out his blog posts on libconf.com, because he does terrific stuff. Okay, and you could also see links to other bloggers who are talking about what they see here at the conference. And our Twitter feed is, as you saw, the hashtag CILDC, and lots of stuff going on there, lots of pictures that have already sprouted out. I want to introduce our keynote speaker this morning. Gina Millsap is the Chief Executive Officer at Topeka and Shawnee County Public Library. And their library was chosen by Library Journal as the Library of the Year in 2016. And I think that's pretty important, and I think that we can really learn a lot from those that our colleagues feel are the best of the best. So Gina is a real leader. She challenges her staff. She is very creative, and she has 200 employees serving a community of 179,000. She has a library degree from the University of Missouri. She has been president of Library Leadership and Management Association, division of ALA. She is on the board of 712 Innovations, the first co-work/makerspace in Kansas. So I think she'll have lots of good stuff to tell us, and she will also be speaking this afternoon in the Learning from Leaders track. So please welcome Gina Millsap.
Good morning. Good morning. You know what? Everybody should get to do this. I mean, I'm looking out, everybody should get to do this one time. I'm looking out at all of you, and it feels like, even though we don't know each other, it feels like family. Family we actually chose, which isn't always the case, right? So I'm sending out love, and I hope you're feeling that love today. So I've been a librarian for 40 years, because I am really old, but I still love what I do. I love going to work every day. And I have a dream. I don't presume to have Dr. King's eloquence or his vision, but I have always admired and shared his determination to advocate for everyone by being part of a profession and working in an institution that is absolutely fundamental to democracy. So I want you to close your eyes for a minute. We're going to imagine something. I want you to imagine your community. Everyone has a relationship with their library. And there's a culture of learning because people are curious about their world, and learning is fun. We're smarter, we're more compassionate, we're more civic-minded, we're more civil, we're more just, we're more engaged with each other and our community. We're also more prosperous, we're sexier, and we just have more fun. We're a place where people want to live, work, learn, and play. So, as Jane said, I was invited to present the keynote at Computers and Libraries this year because my library won Library Journal of the Year. I'd also like to thank thank you. Yay! Thank you. And I also like to think I have a little street cred because I actually did IT for 8 years earlier in my career. That was in the previous century, however. So about 12 years ago, when I came to Topeka and Shawnee County Public Library, I told the staff we'd be Library of the Year. I just didn't know when. And I knew that because I was coming to work with a staff that absolutely wanted to be the best. They had a brand new building, and they were prepared to do wonderful things for their community. It was clear to me that there was a commitment to excellence and innovation, and there was great potential there. The other thing I want to do is say thank you. You don't get to be Library of the Year for 1 year of work. It's decades of commitment and great service. every employee, current or retired, every volunteer, our customers, all had a hand in helping us achieve this. And I'd like to recognize some of my colleagues here at the conference. David King, I think many of you know. Hey, David. David actually directed and produced one of the videos I'm going to show you, actually the second one that you'll see. Amber Bonnet, is Amber here? Amber, raise your hand. Amber, stand up. Amber actually stars in one of the videos that I'm going to show you at least part of. And Michael Perkins, where's Michael? Michael, thank you. Michael actually is responsible for the original artwork in this presentation. Oh, and by the way, if you stick around for this whole presentation, if you can last, we're going to give you a button that says, Librarians are superheroes, because we are. And he has those for you. So everybody wants to know, so how do you get to be Library of the Year? Well, first you have to apply. You must enter to win. So people in the community have said, well, and it's kind of indignant, what they said to me. It's like, well, why did it take this long? And I said, because this is the first time we applied. And it's like, oh, well, is this just for like Kansas? And I said, no, it's actually for the United States and Canada. And then they get this huge smile on their face. And they say, we always knew this was a great library, now everybody knows. And so people want to know, so why did we win? Because I want to tell you, it's what my predecessors have said. And I was really taken by the humility of Scott, who is the director of the Ferguson Library, who spoke. I've heard him speak, and maybe some of you had. So what I'm going to tell you is there's nothing we're doing that you all can't do, or that maybe you were already doing. Every single one of your libraries has the potential to be Library of the Year. But I think that we told a good story. And it wasn't so much because we have cool stuff or we do cool things. It's because we see ourselves as community leaders, and we have a vision about how to make a difference in our community. So here's our mission. Breaks all the rules for mission statements, right? It's in second person. Who does that? And it's about customers and community. It's not about us. Our mission tells our customers and the community, the library is your place. It belongs to them, and we are here for them. We help them transform their lives, but it starts with them and the relationship that they decide to have with their library. So here's a little bit about it. We're in Kansas. This is the only building we have. We have no branches. It was designed by architect Michael Graves, and if you don't know his name, you may know his work. I personally own his steak knives. He designed more than 350 buildings, everything from libraries and post offices to Disney resorts. But it's really his tea kettles and his steak knives and other everyday objects that really made him a household name, if you've ever been to Target and bought anything there. We serve a population of about 179,000. We're spread out over 550 square miles. We go from urban, we're only a couple of miles down the street from the state capitol, all the way out to country gravel roads. Actually, that's where I live. In terms of library members, about 100,000 of the 179,000 people living there are members of the library. Our collection's about 500,000 items, and we circ about 2.3 million items a year. And we have lots and lots of out-of-the-building services, including bookmobiles, mobile learning centers, outreach storytellers, you name it, we do it. So part of our story is about leadership and building leadership capacity, not just in the library, but in the community. Our staff are community leaders. We want them to see themselves that way, and we want the community to see them that way. This is 5 members of our management team who have participated in Leadership Greater Topeka. You see Michael in there, as a matter of fact. Our goal is to have 1 staff member a year in that program. Every 2 years, the library partners with the Chamber of Commerce, the city and county, the school districts, and other organizations to offer a program for people who are thinking about running for office. That might be city council or county commissioner or the school board. It's called Candidate School. Attendees meet and have discussions with local officials and learn what it's really like to run a campaign. And they also hear the war stories. This happened. This is what it's really like. Several of our current officials, including our mayor, attended Candidate School before they decided to run for office. It's also helped some people in the community decide that maybe they're not as committed or as thick-skinned as they need to be to run for elected office. We also shared how we're redefining what it means to be a librarian. So what do I mean by that? So the role of librarian has evolved over time, right? We started out in the role of the guardians of information. I started out my career sitting at the fortress of information, right? That was the desk. And if people came to us, they got great service, right? And great information. Now at our library, we've evolved into rovers. We go where the questions are. It's a natural progression to take our skills and passion for customer service out into the community, meeting needs right where they arise. Over 40 of our managers and all of our librarians have received training in facilitation and meeting management. We found that librarians, and I want all of you to think about this, have a built-in capacity for facilitation because it requires developing relationships built on trust. Our core values and skills as information professionals make us naturals in listening without judging, maintaining confidentiality, finding and synthesizing information on a variety of topics, and valuing diverse and different perspectives. Library staff, along with our partners, have facilitated public meetings for Heartland Visioning, a community building initiative to establish what people want from their community now and in the future. So I'll tell you, facilitation training is a big investment, and honestly, facilitation itself is a lot of work. Those of you who do that know that. Each hour of a meeting can require an hour of planning, but the return on that investment is, I started to say huge, but I'm not going to say that. I'll say it's a lot. So the library is now asked to weigh in and come to the table when important decisions about the community are being discussed. People and organizations want to partner with us, and they value the facilitation skills we bring that really help get things done and gets the best out of groups of really smart people. You got to walk the talk. You have to be the change to facilitate community change. Facilitation has changed the work culture at the library. All library staff have had an introduction to the basics of meeting management, as I've said. Facilitators and staff members have reported that meetings are more focused, more productive, and that their colleagues are more engaged. Staff members are also cultivating relationships outside the library and participating and sometimes leading conversations on topics ranging from health and poverty to the arts and the revitalization of our downtown. Our staff members are ambassadors, they're role models, and recognized authority on getting the best from groups who want to make a difference in their community. We talked about, in our application, our commitment to making a difference in the community and achieving more through collective impact. For instance, Shawnee County's youngest residents are up against some pretty tough challenges when it comes to school readiness. 55% of them that enter the Topeka School District are not ready. A key element to preparing children and families for school success is access. So we talked about how we're working on that with our partners, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And people have talked about, commented about the fact, well, you don't have branches. We basically say no branches, really no problem. We see a single building as an asset and a challenge to be innovative. Service equity is a core value and a perpetual goal. We're visiting customers right in their neighborhoods, in community centers, housing authority neighborhoods, local bars and pubs. We use vehicles as mobile branches, and that's not new, right? Bookmobiles have been around forever. But we take the library to where people are. Our bookmobiles stop at 20 locations all throughout that 550 square miles. They do about 15% of our circulation. The Adventure Mobile serves school-age children and visits schools during the school year and neighborhoods during the summer. But the vehicle in the middle is a little bit different. It's our newest addition to our suite of mobile services. It's the Learn and Play bus, and it's an early childhood mobile classroom. These are other community partners that give us the opportunity to extend our reach by allowing us to co-locate in their facilities. We're not investing in bricks and mortar, but we are out in the community. So we have established computer labs, we have embedded librarians and other staff who work side by side with our partners in their locations. And part of our story is in the numbers. We're very data-driven. In 2014, we surveyed 3,200 households in Shawnee County and received almost 850 completed surveys. That's about double what we would need for a valid statistical sample. So we got a good depth and breadth of feedback and information. Hey, Mark. I used to work with Mark at Ames Public Library. The feedback from the survey drove the development of what we're calling community impact goals. We also held meetings for our 3 boards. We have a governing board and a Friends and Foundation board, as well as all 200 plus of our staff members to review the data and discuss how we would help our customers and our community achieve their dreams and meet the big challenges that wake them up at night. We also held community engagement meetings to talk to people in their neighborhoods. Surveys are great, but there is nothing like FaceTime. Here's what was really exciting about this. We confirmed that we had alignment, that we were all in agreement on what the priorities for the library should be over the next decade, that our programs, our services and collections would focus on and support literacy, all types of literacy, and learning from birth and throughout life. People saw us as an essential community asset in making that happen. We talked about the importance of local stories and storytelling. We're modeling how libraries can champion the work of local authors and help create original community stories. At the library, 2 of our librarians are building a community of writers. They actually develop a community novel every year that they write collaboratively. And the library is really becoming a hub for creation and collaboration. And we love to tell the library story in as many ways as possible. So I want to show you just a little bit of the video we did for National Library Week last year. It's a parody of Taylor Swift's Shake It Off. It's called, as you might expect, Check It Out. Dance if you want to.
That's what people say. Yeah, that's what people say. But I go there every day. No, you can't keep me away. No matter what you say. No matter what you say. Through the stacks I'm cruising. Can't stop, won't stop choosing. Movies, books, and music. It's all mine. I can take home 99. 'Cause the payer's gonna pay. Haters gonna hate. Just think of all you'll save. You check it out, check it out. There's so much variety. Then high def, Blu-ray, Baby, I'm just gonna take. Check it out, There's so much to do. I can stream and download too.
Yay. It's a little over 4 minutes long, so here's what I'm going to say to you. If you want to see the rest of it, check out the library's YouTube channel. We have over 183,000 views, and it would be really cool to get to 200,000. So all of you go out there and work on that. So everyone wants to know, so what do you get for being Library of the Year? We call it, just for short now, we call it Lottie, because we're cool. Well, you get a statue that looks like the Washington Monument. It's really big and heavy and glass with a really pointy top. You get a fabulous party at ALA annual conference sponsored by Library Journal and Gale. And you get a $10,000 check, which we contributed towards helping start our Dolly Parton's Imagination Library program. But more important than that, it's helped build our reputation for innovation and excellence within our own community and the larger library community as well. And probably even more important to us, it's generated enormous pride among the residents of Topeka and Shawnee County. They love it. every time I'm out in the community, every time any staff member is out and about, people mention it. They don't always know what it's called. Well, aren't you like the greatest library ever? Or, and it doesn't matter because they're so proud of their library. Last week, we were honored on the floor of the Kansas Senate with a resolution, and senators on both sides of the aisle gave us a standing ovation. And I want to tell you, it's been a long time since that happened. It's also been a source of pride and fun for the staff. Every department of the library got to keep Lottie for a week. And as you can see, Lottie loves to hang out with our mascot Boomer and read adult materials. The Poet Laureate of Kansas, Eric McHenry, composed a poem to celebrate the award. The recognition that we've received from leaders in the library industry and colleagues throughout US and Canada is so appreciated, and it's very touching. In summary, we told a story not about our stuff, but about our staff, who are creating community leaders, creating facilitators, creating internal change, creating connections between the library and its residents and partners, creating database services, and creating community change through goals that are aligned with the aspirations of our community. So, hey, that's all great. We're actually Lottie until June, but we're not ones to rest on our laurels, right? Because the whole theme of this conference is upping our game, so you don't stop. Great libraries do the hard work. We just heard that about the hard work, and take on challenges in the present to ensure that the library and the community have the best possible future. So what's next? How do we up our game? The staff, our boards, and community members collaborated on a new strategic plan that includes major changes to library spaces. The plan will provide the framework for how we serve the community, who we select and work with as partners, how we develop and allocate resources, and how we develop organizationally. So this is all available on our digital branch run by David Lee King, if you want to see the details. And I'll say the devil's in the details, but the goals have to be big. So our strategic plan has an ambitious vision and big goals, and I'll go into a little bit more detail about that in just a second. But here's what I'm going to say. We will be successful. That may sound a little arrogant, but we will be because we're aligning the library's goals with the needs and aspirations of our community, and we know our community. There are 5 key strategies that are guiding our work. One is turning outwards and working in and with our community. 2 is developing strategic partnerships that allow us to do 3 things: leverage resources, extend our reach, and scale to a level we could never achieve on our own. Developing and implementing big community impact goals that make a real and lasting difference. Building the leadership capacity of the library. And finally, making sure we actually know enough to accomplish these big goals. And here's a cautionary note. It's important to see your community through different lenses. It's not just the people who visit our buildings. It's not just the areas of the community we live in and travel through. It's much bigger than that. And sometimes it's important that we're just a dot on the map. The changing role of librarians and library leaders will be a strong focus in the next few years. We'll be determining the education, the toolkit, and the work of librarians. Developing and managing community relationships will continue to be a key asset and actually a big challenge. It takes a lot of time and effort to have partners and manage them effectively. Advocating for issues like affordable broadband for everyone is important too. Ebooks and digital content offer opportunities for more convenience, they expand our reach and achieve more equitable access to services, but it can also broaden the digital divide if residents don't have access to real affordable broadband, and many in our community don't. Many communities don't. So I mentioned this a little bit earlier. This is one of our newest projects. It's called the Learn and Play Bus, and it hit the road in December. I was telling someone, I sold this as a $500,000 concept to our board and staff. They had to take a big leap of faith with me on this one. It's an early education mobile classroom that serves children ages birth to 5 and their parents to ensure that they're ready for kindergarten. And that's really important because, as I mentioned earlier, 55% of children in the Topeka School District aren't ready. And by not ready, I mean they don't have the cognitive development, the speech development to actually express feelings. They don't have basic skills like how to hold a pencil or cut with scissors. They don't know their colors or their ABCs. We're doing this in collaboration with 10 community partners that we handpicked, who all bring different expertise, professional skills, and a network of families to the project. I asked them for two things when we started that project. I said, I'm taking money off the table. We'll do the fundraising for the bus. I need two things from you. I need a commitment that you'll help us plan it, the service, but when it hits the road, I want you on the bus with us because we want to take a holistic approach to working with children and families. So we're going to imagine again. Imagine a community where all young children between birth and 5 have a home library of 60 books and a shared experience of knowing and loving the same stories. So it doesn't matter what your income level is, your educational level, you have that shared experience. We're working with the United Way of Greater Topeka to bring Dolly Parton's Imagination Library to Topeka and Shawnee County. If you haven't heard of it, it's a book giveaway program for 0 to 5-year-olds, and each month, from the time they're born until they turn 5, they get a book in the mail addressed to them. Dolly's Foundation pays for the books, and the community pays the postage. It's another powerful way of ensuring children are ready for kindergarten, and it's scalable. It has the potential to reach all 12,500 kids between birth and 5 that we have in our community. And tell me another library program that can do that. Compassion and helping fulfill basic needs are also part of the mission. If you told me 40 years ago that when I entered the profession that we'd be feeding kids not just for fun programs, but on a daily basis because they're hungry, I would have thought you were crazy. But we feed kids at the library every day after school. The bottom line is, hungry kids struggle to read and learn, and they're hungry. You feed them. The library is an essential part of their lives for a lot of reasons now. And my point on this is libraries have a role to play in ensuring that compassion and caring are priorities in our communities. We never lose sight of that. I fantasize about just yelling when I'm yelling at the screen when I'm watching CNN or one of the news channels saying, it's just damn money. We're talking people here. We can do and be all these things because we have a really strong leadership team. I'm very lucky. This is my dream team. Strong shared leadership is essential. And I'll tell you, I'm very selective about and demanding of the people I work with and share power with. We have a talented, committed, hardworking staff. At the end of the day, it's not about money or stuff. It's about people and how we share a vision and work together to achieve it. So here's what I'll say. Although big ideas, big goals, and ambitious projects are part of who we are and how we work, at the end of the day, we're aware that community relationships begin with the human touch. Those thousands of small connections in the building, bookmobiles, rural and urban touch points in our county combine to create relationships that last a lifetime. So whether or not your aspiration is to be Library of the Year, we all should want to be the best damn library for our communities. My library won't stop striving for relevance and excellence, and none of us should, and that's part of upping the game. You probably thought I was finishing up, but I'm not. So I've been pondering this phrase lately. In the business world, it's purpose beyond profit. The notion that it's not good enough for a company to make money. It also has to do something meaningful and good. If you look at other professions and industries, you'll see many of them have values and core beliefs. As librarians, we also have core beliefs and a purpose beyond our day-to-day tasks, and we don't lose sight of them. That's another reason I'm very proud of our profession. So these are the core values from the American Library Association, but I think we could agree, is there one here that you can't support as you look at that list? They're big, noble ideals and aspirations. It's important to acknowledge them and understand that whatever else may change, these are enduring. That being said, simply believing in them isn't the same as living them and making sure they're baked into everything we do. But actually, as I looked at this list, I realized that something's missing. Anybody have any idea what it might be? Jamie LaRue, you work for ALA. What's missing? It is. Any guesses? It's literacy. Why isn't literacy up there? It's implied perhaps, but we don't say it. And perhaps we should, because literacy should be at the heart of everything we do. And I think we also have some unwritten values. I see them every day, and I've seen them in all 3 libraries I've worked in. I see it on social media when I read how a colleague is worried about the homeless teens in his library, or when I talk to a librarian who's absolutely thrilled because she helped a customer apply for and get a job. I'd suggest that this is how we live those big, noble goals. That is why I have such respect and love for librarians and why I'm proud to be one. We are committed to doing good work in our libraries and in the world, and that does make for great libraries. And people are noticing. There's a lot of interest in libraries right now, and a recognition that we're making a big difference in the quality of life, the quality of place, education, literacy, and learning in our communities. So here's what I'll say. If you haven't read John Palfrey's book, you should. It's a call to action and makes a strong case for the power libraries have to change their communities. For the past 13 years, the Pew Research Center, under the leadership of Lee Rainey, and I believe Lee's going to be here later, right, has surveyed, researched, and shared those findings with us as librarians on dozens of topics that outline the importance and impact of libraries. If you haven't read those reports, you should. Founder Rich Harwood has worked with libraries and ALA since 2001. He views libraries as strong agents of civic and social change. He teaches libraries and other organizations to turn outwards and focus on civic engagement to facilitate change in our communities. If you're not familiar with his work, you should be. In 2014, the legendary Aspen Institute did a study on public libraries. It's called Rising to the Challenge, Re-envisioning Public Libraries. Now, I will say it's about public libraries, but a lot of it is applicable to any type of library. And it's a must-read because it outlines what public libraries and others should do to future-proof themselves and to create sustainable organizations. And it even comes with a workbook to tell you how to work with your community. It also works really well with the Harwood Institute's civic engagement process. If you haven't, download it and read it. It's free. Libraries are in the headlines from the Wall Street Journal and Forbes to NPR and the Huffington Post. There's an unprecedented level of public awareness, and we're missing the boat if we don't leverage that to advocate for libraries and the difference we make. Yay, yay, clap. All those sources give us valuable feedback, and they reflect back to us not just a picture of what we are, but what we could be. All of that attention's flattering and exciting, but it can also be a little confusing. There's a lot of data, advice, and recommendations that are coming at us all the time now, and they're focused on telling us we must change so we can help our communities change and prosper. But fundamentally, here's what I believe. How's that for upping our game? We can change the world if we decide who we are and what our role is. To do that, we have to go beyond traditional notions of the library organization that focuses on our functions instead of the impact we have in our communities. Let's face it, most libraries have the same organizational structure we've had for centuries. I bet the library in Alexandria had a cataloging department. Collection management is a function. It's how we handle all the stuff and content people need to read and learn. Increasing literacy and learning and providing enjoyment and happiness is why we do it. The goal isn't to have big circulation numbers for the sake of the numbers. It's to have lots of people reading and learning. I love this little Furby. That's a big goal, and we have to have those stretch goals, big, scary ones that focus on our community and its needs. It's about them, not about us. So here's my library's goals for at least the next 10 years. You don't get these done in a year. or 3 years, or 5 years. We call them community impact goals. We actually stole that from the United Way. I steal from the best. They're ambitious, they're far-reaching, they're long-term, they're focused on the community and not as much on the library as an institution. They're inclusive, and they strive to reach all people in the community. They're not goals that the library can achieve by itself, nor are they intended to be. They are also intended to stretch the library as an organization and the staff to be more and know more, so that we can help people in our community do the same. If we pursue these goals wholeheartedly, we can help combat poverty, contribute to economic mobility, and help people help themselves. It's also important to realize we don't know enough to be really effective in advancing these goals. It's time for a little humility. This fifth goal, to become a learning organization, is an acknowledgement of and a commitment to the fact that we as librarians have to be lifelong learners to facilitate that for our communities. That goal will include an action plan to support and encourage staff to practice what we preach, because ultimately these goals are the building blocks for not just the library's future, but I firmly believe our community's future. And we have to figure out if we're being effective, if we're successful. For instance, how do you measure a passion for learning? Outputs like circulation and program attendance won't do it. How do we determine if the Learn and Play bus is effective in helping parents and young children be ready for kindergarten? The logic model gets us a little closer. We can document changes in people's behavior, which in turn results in better outcomes. For instance, if parents report that they're reading, talking, and singing more to their kids, research shows that these activities contribute to cognitive development, speech development, reading readiness, and ultimately school readiness. It's an if-then proposition. And as Rich Harwood says, we have to turn outwards, working in and with our community. The library is placed, don't get me wrong, it's still essential, but it's not always where librarians need to be or where librarying, it's a verb, needs to happen. This is a picture of the technology classroom that we designed and installed in collaboration with the Topeka Housing Authority staff and residents. Adults and children are learning digital literacy skills that help them find jobs or better jobs and do better in school. And it's also bridging the digital divide for a lot of those families that can't afford internet access. And we cannot do this by ourselves. No one organization can. Quality, committed partnerships help us leverage resources like expertise and money. They extend our reach and scale to a level we could never achieve on our own. And we have to be selective about who we partner up with. We have a code word at my library to describe a situation where we've been invited to work on an issue in the community. A staff member comes back to the library and reports on what was discussed. If he or she comes back and says simply, brochure, we know it may not be worth our time. In other words, if the purpose of getting together is simply to put our names on a piece of paper and hand out to people, we're not interested. We are interested in collaboration, where both parties are all in and committed to helping people make their own lives better. Library programs and services have to scale. If we continue to use traditional service models, we won't reach even half of the target audiences we intend and need to reach. So here's an example. We've agreed with our partners that preschool story times are one of the best ways to help young children learn to love books and be ready for kindergarten. So remember I said there's about 12,500 kids between birth and 5 in our community in any given year? Okay, every week my library does 50 story times. Some in the building, some outside the building. That sounds like a lot, right? But we've decided to be really effective, to really make a difference, we need 500 story times a week. So you tell me, can the library do that by itself? The answer is no. Can we even do it in collaboration with our partners? No, we can't. So what do? In fact, it has to be a community project. It has to be a community-wide effort. It's library, it's partners, it's volunteers, it's getting the whole community engaged and involved with giving kids a great start in life. In important community conversations, we're at the table because we are one of the most successful organizations in town. We're seen as an essential asset because we're trusted, and never underestimate the power of trust. We have access and to good information, and we're information professionals. We know how to use it. We know how to collaborate and make the process better. We're data-driven, and we have a reputation for getting things done. So here's what I'll say. Libraries will only achieve this level of respect and importance in their communities if librarians are viewed and believe they are community leaders and act accordingly. And I'm not just talking about directors or managers. I'm talking about all librarians, all people who work in libraries. So, changing the world is the stuff of legends and heroes. Libraries can change the world if we're leading that change. Ergo, I've never said ergo before. I had to put it in here. Ergo, librarians are the new superheroes. It's never been a better time to be a librarian. I want you to say that with me, and say it with belief. It's never been a better time to be a librarian. Yes, it's true. Not quite as energetic as I'd like, but you know. But look where we've been and how far we've come. But other things have to change too. Recruitment needs to start with kids. We've got them when they're young. We've got hordes of them when they're little, right? We need to show them how fun, cool, and satisfying it is to be a librarian. There needs to be more opportunities for young people to volunteer, to intern, and maybe even apprentice in libraries. We need commitment. We must be fiercely committed to our core values: social and racial equity, working beyond the walls of the library, working collaboratively with colleagues and partners, and being lifelong learners ourselves. And we need to take a hard look at library education. Why do librarians need an MLS or an MLIS? I'm just asking. What can those of us who have degrees do that others can't? Do we distinguish ourselves? Does our education serve us well as we enter the job market? So let me ask you this. If you were mentoring someone who was thinking about becoming a librarian, what would you tell them they really needed to know and should be able to do? So what do we need to know? Do we know enough about, for instance, human development, brain, emotional, and mental development from birth and throughout life? Do we know enough about human behavior and psychology? Do we understand how people learn and why they're motivated to change their behavior? Do we know enough about the science of learning itself from birth and throughout life? Are we lifelong learners? Do we understand how libraries can help people learn through life? Do we actually apply this knowledge to our programs and services? Do we know enough about management, leadership, organizational development? So, this is what I look for in a librarian. A great librarian is someone who's curious and can inspire curiosity in others, because that's the key to learning. Knows how to give great customer service, who knows the library inside and out. A good communicator in every channel there is. Is a good facilitator, knows how to work in and get the best from groups of diverse, smart people. Is literate in literacy, is comfortable with all types of literacy. Digitally literate, knows library technology and digital resources inside and out, is an expert in digital platforms, and is ready and able to assist customers at any time. Can do data analysis. I'm not saying we all have to be statisticians, but we should be able to look at data from our ILSs and other sources and figure out the stories that they're telling us about people who use libraries, the people who don't, and what's happening in our community. And they need to be, a great librarian is a leader, regardless of their job title. A great librarian knows team and project management, the ability to help colleagues do their best work and get things done. Strategic planning, the ability to develop and work towards a common vision, to set goals and priorities, how to allocate resources to achieve objectives, determine what success looks like, how to do research, real research, how to do community analysis, the basics of how to design, implement, and evaluate the user experience, how to initiate and manage partnerships, how to advocate for the library in any setting, how to coordinate and participate in process improvement with the mindset of there's always a better way to do something, when to lead and when to follow. So no one starts out with all the knowledge and skills they need, but the ability to adapt and learn is critical for librarianship. So I want to share with you as I'm finishing up, this is one librarian's journey. It's about 2 minutes. This is Lissa Staley from our library, and this is the video that David King produced and directed. And where's mine?
I've worked at the library for 15 years, and in the last 15 years, a lot has changed. When I first got here to the library, a lot of our work was at the service desk. Someone walks up and asks a question, and I find the right resource and give it to them, and that was what we did. Since then, I still spend about half my time working directly with the public, and a lot of the work I do is helping them find information, but it's changed in the kind of information they need and how I help them find it. Instead of saying, here's the answer, because I'm the information expert, I say, here's how we find this answer, let me show you how to do it. And we do it together side by side. I became involved with our community's health coalition, Heartland Healthy Neighborhoods. Initially, I just went to their meetings, gave feedback, and tried to figure out what actionable information I could take away from the meetings. When they changed formats to a more facilitated model, I started facilitating a work group for healthy eating, active living, a topic which I really didn't know that much about, but luckily my job was to draw the information out of those around the table. As a group, over 2 years, we wrote the Community Health Improvement Plan for those goals and strategies, and from there I joined the Heartland Healthy Neighborhoods leadership team and continue to work county-wide with groups and coalitions throughout the county to try to advance health goals and really lead the efforts to make change in the community. The library is always a resource to support, but we're also a resource at the table helping make the change. For people who are just becoming librarians now, what I wish you could know is that accessing information isn't just getting the right book for the customer off the shelf and handing to them. It's helping them navigate the entire world of information, everything that's available, and also not just how to access it, but how to evaluate whether it's a source they can trust, who produced it, and why. And there's more to it than just that. Libraries are about books and reading as well, but I can't just enthusiastically recommend a book I love to a customer if I'm not also willing to help them learn how to troubleshoot their obsolete tablet so that they can download it from our digital content. Helping people navigate information in the modern world is a librarian's job, but that job gets bigger all the time, and you have to be flexible in understanding that people need different things from you and be ready to provide them on all aspects of your job.
That's Lissa. Yay, Lissa! I will tell her she got a round of applause. So I'm going to say it again. There's never been a better time to be a librarian. That's because there's so many opportunities to grow professionally and make a real difference in our community. I'm actually jealous of those of you who are at a different point in your career, where there's just so many things that you can do. So here's just a few. Literacy crusaders, reading evangelists, digital literacy gurus, guardians of the First Amendment, more important now than ever, champions of social and racial equity through our services, programs, and collections, advocates for eliminating the digital divide and access to the internet, lifelong learners who lead the way in acquiring knowledge and helping others live their best lives, educators who make learning fun and affordable and accessible, facilitators helping the community work together, conveners bringing people and organizations together, and last but not least, bullshit detectors. Shining the light of truth on fake news and false information. We are uniquely positioned more at any time in our history to help our communities be smarter, more civil, more civically engaged, and more inclusive, and better places to live, work, learn, and play. And if that's not a superhero, I don't know what is. So go out and change the world.